Conservation and Incentives panel. My name's Kevin Whitaker, and I'll be moderating this panel. So to introduce our panel participants, we have Randy Dater of M&R Holdings here. We have Mike Mulqueen of Toronto Hydro. We have Chris Hamilton from Enbridge. And we're going to go ahead and start off with Randy Dater to discuss the landlord perspective and a case study on tenant engagement and energy conservation and initiatives. We will have each participant will have about 15 minutes, and then we'll stop at about 2:20 for questions and answers. So please hold your questions till then. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Kevin. I'd like to thank John Dickey and the CFAA for inviting me here to speak to you today. Today I'm going to talk about a case study that we did with some windows, new windows and balcony door replacements at M&R, and strategies for engaging and partnering with tenants as it relates to energy efficient initiatives. My name is Randy Dater, and I am Vice President of M&R Holdings, and I've been in the industry for about 30 years now. So again, today I'm going to review a window case study we did at M&R, an engagement model that we've developed at M&R for engaging our tenants, engagement strategies, and tips for engagement on an ongoing basis. So in terms of our case study, it was through the City of Toronto's high-risk program, through the Tower Renewal Department, and it was for the installation of new windows and balcony doors. We're really excited to have been the first landlord to qualify for the special financing program, and we actually received a check. You can see in the picture there, that's downtown at City Hall for $3.1 million, and we've since gotten about another $400,000 out of the program in special financing for new windows and balcony doors for 3 buildings in the City of Toronto. It's a 3-year pilot project. It's for rental apartment buildings in the City of Toronto. You get up to 100% financing, which we did for your energy efficient project costs, and certainly they offer very competitive rates. So they offer anywhere from a 15 to 20-year rate, and we opted for a 15-year rate. And I'll show you the business fundamentals of how that's worked out for us. So again, we enrolled 3 buildings. 2 are 498 suites located at Yonge and Sheppard, and 1 is 304 suites at Yonge and Steeles. And that's the one, we've done a business case study on both of them, but I'll share the one with you at Yonge and Steeles. So, you know, it's interesting. It's sort of counterintuitive to think that you're going to be able to make money with a decent payback, simple payback, and on a cash flow basis by installing new windows at on a building. But we've run some numbers, and they're pretty, they sort of challenge conventional wisdom. The savings are, we had a third-party energy audit done, and we found that we're going to save $85,000 a year in our gas costs by installing these brand new windows and these balcony doors. That works out to roughly 26.8% of our gas costs for that building a year. Now, we're spending money on plaster repairs because this building was built in 1968, and we were getting a lot of condensation around the windows. So we're spending about $15,000 a year in repairs and maintenance around the windows, and we're spending about another $20,000 a year replacing broken windows, especially on turnover. So when you look at how much we're saving on an annual basis after doing the windows, we're saving $120,000 a year. Those are real numbers. Now that doesn't even take into account these 2 supplemental space heaters, these portable electric heaters that our superintendent tells us 60 to 80% of the tenants have. It's a 20-story building, and it abuts Yonge Street, and there's not much really blocking it. We also have tenants who are turning their stove tops and their ovens on full blast. It was traditionally a bulk metered building. We went to individual meters about 1.5 years ago, but we still have a lot of tenants in the building who are on bulk meters, and we haven't even taken those costs into account for those electric baseboard heaters. Now, we expect to generate some extra revenue as well. We did a market study. We're comfortable where we should be relative to the competition. But with brand new windows and balcony doors, we should be able to demand another $20 to $25 a month in rent. And so conservatively speaking, at $20 a month with a 23% turnover, that's 70 suites on 304 suites, an extra $240 a year, we expect to generate an extra revenue, an additional $16,800 a year. So if you look at how much money we're going to save, $120,000 in expenses, we're going to generate another $16,800 in revenue. So our NOI after the windows is going to grow by $136,800 a year. Now, if you take your debt service for the 15-year tower renewal loan off of that, which is $117,451 flat, they added on to our property tax bills for 15 years, we are actually on a cash flow basis going to end up positive to the tune of $19,349 a year. So again, it's quite, it kind of challenges conventional wisdom around doing windows with a traditional sort of 15, 20-year payback. So in terms of the financial fundamentals, we're going to increase our NOI by $136,800 a year. At a 5% cap, we're going to be effectively increasing our building value by $2.7 million a year. We're investing with all our hard and soft costs in HST $1.3 million a year in the windows. So we're actually getting back in value over double our investment in the windows. Our simple payback is 9.5 years. Once you factor into the, increase in NOI, and the return on our investment is 10.52%. So to quantify, to summarize our quantitative benefits, we're going to save $85,000 a year, roughly 26.8% of our gas costs. We're going to have a six-figure increase in NOI, a simple payback in under 10 years, a double-digit return on investment, and we're going to be cash flow positive by almost $20,000 a year at the end of the first year, and it's only going to get better after that for the remaining 15 years. So at the end of the day, we've done a calculation based on our energy audit. We're going to be saving 226,826 cubic meters of natural gas a year by installing these new windows. This results in greenhouse gas reduction of about 429 metric tons of CO2 that's being saved per year. This is effectively equivalent to greenhouse gas emissions from 90 passenger cars a year. It's like taking 90 passenger cars off the road a year, or electricity servicing 39 homes, or 154 tons of waste being sent to the landfill, or 48,273 gallons of gasoline consumed. It's amazing, not only from a cash flow and a return on investment and a break-even perspective, how positive these new windows and balcony doors are going to be on our carbon footprint and the environment. So in addition to the quantitative and the environmental benefits that we've talked about, we're realizing some additional qualitative benefits from our window replacement as well, like things like increased tenant comfort. So the tenants aren't going to have to put up with the drafts coming through the windows anymore or the balcony doors. It's going to be less noisy. Overlooking Yonge Street, there's a lot of noise transmission that comes through those windows. We're going to have improved marketing efforts. We're going to be able to feature this in our advertising, brand new windows. I've done banners on windows where we say, look, brand new windows, and we put the banner around the window. We have arrows pointing to the window. People love it. You can't even imagine how many people call after that. It's going to help us with our tenant referrals. We're going to have enhanced aesthetics. Obviously, from the elevation, the building's going to look better, and the interior aesthetics in the suite, it looks a lot better. And we're going to have a reduction in those pesky portable electric heaters as well. So when we look at operating costs, things like, and I attended a roundtable discussion this morning, and it came up that, the biggest operating expenses we typically have in our P&L statements are property taxes, utilities, and I'm going to add a third one, repairs and maintenance. And it's amazing, but some regions across Canada, we all know that municipal rates in some regions the water is increasing by as much as 10% a year. At 10% a year, on a compounded basis, water rates double every 7.2 years. Our energy costs, as we all know, are continuing to increase. And hydro rates, for example, are expected to rise by as much as 10% a year over the next several years here in Ontario and some other regions as well. Most prudent landlords and property management companies are doing whatever they can in terms of capital initiatives to lower their energy consumption. And so when we look at the success of an initiative, we take two important factors into account. First one is the merits of the project on a business case basis, and we've already done that. Just as important as that, though, is tenant and staff buy-in. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you can actually increase, and Ted from the CRB program, I see you're sitting in the back of the room, we've had discussions around this. It's been proven that you can actually increase your energy savings by as much as 5 to 15%, on average 10%, simply by engaging your residents and your staff in your energy conservation initiatives. So how do we go about engaging our staff and our tenants to support our energy efficient initiatives? Well, before I answer this question, can I just get a show of hands of how many people have experienced the following challenges when implementing any initiatives in their building, including conservation initiatives? Getting tenants to buy into what you're doing. How about communicating effectively with your tenants? How about having a level of participation from your tenants that ensures that your initiative is successful? Quite a few people. Are these not areas that you'd like to improve in your buildings? Well, we've done it through an engagement model that we've developed. And we use it in everything that we do. And in fact, after involving our tenants in the implementation of our projects, we discovered a pattern was emerging. And we realized we had the best results when we employed this model. So it's obviously become our engagement model for all of our projects. The first step is to share your vision with your tenants. By communicating your vision, this means, you can do this through a number of different tools, like tenant newsletters, posters, special events, and notice boards. We have notice boards that we've actually installed in every elevator lobby on every single floor in every single one of our buildings. The second step is very simple, and it has a profound impact. It's listening. Listening to the desires and the recommendations of our tenants. By accepting feedback, we actually create a relationship that allows for a higher level of buy-in from our tenants. And it also reveals new opportunities that we wouldn't have otherwise considered. It's amazing how a tenant's small recommendation can have a huge impact on the success of our initiative. The third step is to partner. You can partner with your tenants association if you have one of tenants in your buildings. This creates a sense of unity between everyone involved in the initiative. And finally, it's critical to repeat the model over and over again throughout your project. Once again, by following this model, it's helped us implement our most successful initiatives. But we found the most critical item in the engagement model is listening to our tenants. That was the most critical. So bringing this back to our window replacement project, here's how we implemented our engagement model after sharing our vision with them. We listened to our tenants. We have one project in particular, it's a 600-suite building, and we sent a letter out to our tenants in February, and we said in the summer, we're going to be doing a balcony retrofit. We're doing a full refurbishment. And we got hundreds of letters back from our tenants. They said, no, we don't want you doing a balcony refurbishment, and please don't do it in the summer. This building has beautiful views of the downtown. It's at Broadview and Danforth. And we sat back and we read the letters. And a lot of people in those letters said, forget about the balconies. This building was built in 1972. We've got the original windows. We're getting all these drafts. It's freezing cold. We want you to replace the windows. To us, that's a bigger priority than your balconies. So we thought about it. We looked at our cash flow. We looked at incentive programs out there. And we sent every single suite a letter back within about 3 to 4 weeks of receiving those letters. And we said, we listen to you, we hear you, and this is what we're going to do about it. We're going to put the balcony refurbishment project off until the day after Labor Day, so you're going to have your balconies throughout the summer. And not only are we going to do that, but we're going to do the windows at the same time. We're going to give you brand new windows, and we're going to redo your balconies. And we did that. So we started the day after Labor Day. We started the windows on the west side of the building and the balconies on the east side, and they were both finished. We flip-flopped. We carried the window contractor as a sub to the balcony contractor, so we didn't have any issues. As far as health and safety was concerned, we vetted it through the Ministry of Labor. Everything was fine. And we had it was incredible. It was a very successful project. We also do window mock-ups. We did a window mock-up so that we, with the Tenants Association, we brought them in and we said, what size air conditioners do you have? And we wanted to make sure that the window openings were going to be big enough for their air conditioners. And we did a sample panel in the rental office so that new tenants could come in and they would embrace the project, and it would help them embrace the balcony project as well as they were living through it. And we also consulted with our tenants with respect to design and color. And this resulted in some great ideas. For example, we found that tenants were drilling through the frames of our old windows. We said, why are you drilling through the frames? They said, well, we want Christmas lights on our balconies, and you don't have any receptacle outlets on our balconies. So we said, okay. So they said, why don't you create some sort of integrated access panel with your new windows for our Christmas lights. Another idea that came up was they said, we're going to drill through your brand new balcony doors. We said, well, why would you want to do that? And they said, because you got a window in it, and we need a curtain rod. So we listened to them, we partnered with them, and collectively we came up with a solution. We did install these magnetic curtain rods. And we did that, and it was a win-win. Everybody was thrilled. So to summarize our overall strategies, you need to share your vision. You can do these through things like newsletters, posters, tenant events, letters, kiosks, mock-ups. You need to listen to your tenants. And we listened to them. We ended up rescheduling and rescoping our capital projects and changing our window design. And you need to partner with your tenants through the Tenants Association to make sure that you're getting everything just right. So just to wrap up, I'd like you to consider the following tips to encourage tenant engagement in all of your initiatives, especially as it relates to energy conservation initiatives. Engage and educate your employees, your staff, before your tenants. And this creates a sense of pride and ownership. The next thing you should do, which is a good tip, is explain the benefits of the project before it begins, and this creates a sense of excitement. Third thing that you should do in terms of tips for engagement is use multiple communication tools with consistency, like tenant newsletters, online texts, and email blasts. And lastly, measure your results and repeat the engagement model, which is sharing your vision, listening to your tenants, and partnering with your tenants. Thank you very much.
It's not up there, though.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity. So, really, it's a simple message that I want to deliver here today, and I'll point back to the slide that Randy had at the beginning of his presentation with the large check. That's what it's about, right? It's your money. We want to figure out how to get that money back into your hands. So, that's me. Here's what I'm going to talk about, but just an overview of some of our programs and a few case studies with opportunities we think that we've seen that you could be thinking about, but really we can help you with any project that saves energy, saves electricity. That's what we're here for, and I just want to acknowledge two of my colleagues, Dennis Flores and Ian Robertson, in the audience here. So these are real experts. Come talk to them. Any projects that you're thinking about, they can help you. They can help turn that project into an application, help you save money. So why is Toronto Hydro doing this? We've moved from 2011 to 2014 funding framework. We're transitioning now into a 6-year funding framework, which provides stability. So these incentives that you're seeing today in the marketplace, they're going to continue. There's going to be new programs, but we appreciate that there's a long planning horizon for a lot of the projects that you're considering, and so these incentives will be there to help you. So work with us, communicate with us, and we can help you. So it's a long-term 6-year plan. Sorry, I didn't realize these all had transitions on them. Let me just get them all up on screen. So our targets have effectively doubled from the previous framework. Right, so we've achieved quite a bit in conservation from 2011 to 2014. We're going to have to work twice as hard to meet these targets, and this is quite important to us. And I should say I recognize not everybody here is from Toronto. So these are province-wide incentives. So it'll have Toronto branding. And if you're from out of province, chances are these types of incentives are available in your jurisdiction. So really, you should be speaking to your local utilities anytime you're working on retrofit projects. What's out there? So, and the last point, I'm quite happy to be on a panel here with Enbridge as well. So the collaboration with gas companies is something I think traditionally we haven't done particularly well. And so going forward, I think that's something that we're going to have a lot more emphasis on. So when one of us is speaking to a customer, we can be knowledgeable about both programs and help you access all the incentives working together. So Really, all I want to say about this slide is, from a customer perspective, it's going to be a seamless transition, right? So we're moving from this 2011 to 2014 framework. 2015 is a interim transition year. The programs are continuing that were in the previous framework, and at some point we're going to transition customers into the new funding framework, into the new program. But from your perspective, it should be seamless, and that's what we're here to help manage that process for you. So you see this first generation programs. These are the old programs. The lawyers have reformatted the language, but they're effectively the same programs. You're going to see new programs starting in 2016, and that's what we're currently working on. So province-wide through the ISO working group. So these new programs will be in market starting in 2016. And in parallel, we're also working on pilot programs, which we hope will become full programs. And so they might be regional, they might be specific to Toronto, or there might be a case to roll that pilot program up to a full province-wide program. And I'll share one example of one of the programs that we're working on currently. So audit funding, very simply, you can get up to 50% of the cost of an audit. It's paid on basis of square footage, so 10 cents a square foot, up to $25,000 for a standard ASHRAE Level 2 audit. There's also, and I've called out on the right-hand side, if you want to do more focused audit on a particular building system, so hydronic balancing as your distribution systems in the building, that's often an example people look at, or a lighting audit. There is up to $5,000 for a more focused audit if you want to really drill down, look at a particular system within your building. So we can work with you on either, depending on where you are in your planning process. Retrofit program. This is really the core of our program, and it's flexible to accommodate basically any energy efficiency technology that you're considering. So we pay on the basis of kilowatts, so your demand or your yearly consumption. There's a different rate for lighting versus non-lighting projects, recognizing lighting is a bit of the low-hanging fruit. So $800 per kilowatt or 10 cents a kilowatt hour for a non-lighting project, or half of that for lighting projects. You can see on the right-hand side just some examples of the different types of projects that you might want to consider. And I'll share a few case studies. So it's capped at up to 50% of your project cost. There's a few different streams you can participate. So we have a number of worksheets, prescriptive worksheets that have a standard fixed incentive, very easy to fill out. You just share information on the particular technology that you're looking at. It has to be from a recognized, so if it's lighting, it has to be DLC compliant or Energy Star compliant. So there's certain prescriptive performance specifications that have to be met. Very easy to participate. There's also an engineered path. So if you want to customize the application to enter more information about your building operating hours and the type of equipment you can use, that can drive higher incentives as well. And there's a custom path for anything that we don't have a worksheet template for. So again, it's fully flexible. So we have tools that can help you fit that project into the incentive, so you can help you access that money. So this is helpful. Just slide is here just to make the point that there are a number of opportunities in your building, so that can get you an incentive. Anything as small as anything that generates savings as small as 1,000 kilowatt hours, so $100 incentive you're eligible for. So for context, that might be a single refrigerator. Might be a 20-year-old model might be consuming 1,500 kilowatt hours. A new model might consume 400 to 450. So a project that small would be eligible for an incentive, technically. I mean, obviously, we hope that you do larger projects. So we just want you to have this in mind, that any project, small or large, that you're considering, we can help you get that money. It might not be a big check, it might be a little check to start with, but we'd like to work with you on all those opportunities. Existing building commissioning. So if you have chilled water system, cooling tower, there's a commissioning program that can help you through all stages of the process. So from the initial scoping to the more detailed design work, and then the actual retrofit of the equipment and commissioning. So $800 per kilowatt, or 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And it's up to 50% of the project cost. And so this is a really program that helps you through the entire process and provides financial support at each stage. So if you're working on any of those projects, again, come talk to us. Process and systems. So this is typically a program that's more for the industrial sector, but we are actually seeing in the multi-residential sector a lot of interest in combined heat power systems, and that's where this type of system. So people looking at their emergency backup, their generators for their building, many are considering combined heat power systems. So not only helping with that reliability, underlying reliability issue, but helping address emergency preparedness issues. So up to 40% of that capital cost would be eligible through the process and systems upgrade. So there's a study required for combined heat power. There are a number of technical approvals, so it's not as simple as participating in the retrofit program. There are a number of technical approvals that are reliability, system capacity planning colleagues at Toronto Hydro will have to look at to make sure there's sufficient grid capacity to absorb that system. But there are incentives available. So this is something you're considering, and it is typically a very long planning horizon. So come talk to us early in the process so that we can make you aware of what's actually going to be required and connect you with the right people to start the process. This is that example I wanted to share about a pilot program that we're working on, and we're quite excited about this. We think it's going to be a real winner, and we're going to be able to roll this out very seamlessly into a full program. So we're looking at hydronic balancing systems, so your hot and cold water distribution system within your building. And this is actually we're piloting a direct install model where we're going to pay for an audit and the installation of the equipment. So entirely at our own cost, because we think the savings are going to be so substantial. So we're looking at around 10 buildings. We're going to be doing this work this fall, doing our measurement verification to determine that the savings that we think are going to be there are actually there, and then we're hoping by 2016 we're going to be able to roll this into a full program that's available to all of our customers. The pilot's focused on larger equipment, so typically 20-25 horsepower pumps. So if you have buildings with pumps of that size, start thinking about this opportunity, and we're hoping that we can bring this to you. And I just want to throw in a couple case studies as well. So lighting, obviously, said it's the low-hanging fruit. I know it's a condominium, not an apartment, but just to kind of give you a sense of if you haven't done this already, there's huge opportunity. If any of you have T12 lighting, please consider upgrading. So you can see Masters Condominium as a number, I think, as of 3 or 4 years ago they did this work. But a simple payback under 2 years, right? So that's a very easy business decision to make. It improves tenant comfort. Yeah, I mean, there's really a strong business case to do these types of upgrades. And then LED lighting, and so Toronto Community Housing. They've moved quite aggressively on LED lighting and focusing a lot of their common areas, parking garages, and there's also opportunities to combine in parking garages, particularly with sensors as well, so you can get some additional savings through the control. So this total of 31 projects and a pretty large investment, $1.3 million. But you can look at even taking out the incentive. It's a simple payback of 3 years. Right? So these are very, very solid projects that should be on everyone's radar. Booster pumps, and so this is connected to that hydronic balancing program. All those pumps, all that equipment in your building, there are opportunities there. It could be as simple as installing a VFD on an existing pump, or doing a more rigorous analysis and identify there's opportunities to actually right-size the pumps and put in a variable frequency drive. So here's two different examples. In the top examples, they simply installed variable frequency drives, and you can see the savings, the incentive that it generated, and the savings. So under 2 years, very simple payback. CapREIT, again, they larger portfolio. They're moving more aggressively. This is just 8 of their completed projects. They're actually doing many, many more projects than this. These are just 8 I pulled out for the purpose of illustration here. But you can see the size of their investment and the savings that it's generating on an annual basis. And this is real money that's flowing back to them. So encourage you to think about these types of projects. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say. So come talk to us. We're here to help.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So my name is Chris Hamilton. I'm here with Enbridge, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. I was asked to speak a little bit about the programs that Enbridge has to offer. So I'll give you a quick overview of our programs for multi-residential housing. Multi-residential housing, just as a note, is one of our most critical sectors or verticals of business. Makes up about 40% of our commercial results, so it's a significant contributor for us and a very important sector. So much so that we actually have about 6 different people involved in the sector. So some names you might know: Dominic DeMuzio, Oksana Barcola, Cam Black, Carmen Fiella, Mike Dunn, Luigi Pisani. These are all names that potentially you've worked with in the past, but they're involved with this sector. Just a quick agenda this morning or this afternoon. I'll just quickly go over Enbridge gas distribution and our territory, kind of where we cover, why we run our conservation programs, which is always a question we're often asked, at least. Why would you want to sell less of what you're trying to sell? Our programs, what in fact we are offering, and then any next steps for maybe working together on a project. And I'll do the slides here. Terrific. So we're Canada's largest natural gas distribution utility. A year and a half ago, we eclipsed our 2 millionth customer. We employ just over 2,000 people. Our head office is on Consumers Road, which is 401 and 404, basically Vic Park and Shepherd. I wanted to show the difference. You can obviously see the blue and the white. So the blue areas are Enbridge territories, and the white is actually handled by Union Gas. So you can see we've got kind of the Niagara region. I should step closer here. The Niagara region, as well as the Ottawa Valley. And then the blue section is our central section, which covers from Mississauga, say, to Peterborough, and from the lake up to Barrie. The white sections are handled by Union Gas. So we've been offering DSM programs for 20 years, and DSM stands for Demand Side Management, or essentially curbing demand, so conservation. So we've been offering these financial incentives and programs since 1995. The programs are mandated and governed through the Ontario Energy Board, and we're given a hard target of CCM that we need to achieve on an annual basis. And CCM, for those who may not know, is essentially the quantified cubic meters that a project will save multiplied by an approved measure life. So basically how much a project will save multiplied by a lifespan that we're allowed to multiply it by. It ranges from certain projects 5 years, boiler projects up to 25 years. So we get the savings, multiply it by the measure life, and that's the CCM. And we put all of these projects that we're claiming together, and we have to hit a target that's set by the Ontario Energy Board. And the funding for these programs come from our ratepayers, so a small portion of your funds of your rates and your bills are going towards funding these programs. So we encourage you to take as much advantage of these programs as you can. We offer programs for our residential clients, our industrial clients, and our commercial clients. And within our commercial sector, as I said, is our multi-residential housing sector, which is critical to our success. Quite quickly, there's kind of 3 different offers that we have. We offer financial incentives as one, and those can be custom or fixed. We offer an operational improvement program, and we also offer a benchmarking program called Energy Compass. So I'll very quickly detail each of those. I think we're doing okay for time again? Yeah, good. So the bulk of our savings come through our custom programs, and essentially a custom calculation is done, custom meaning it's custom to your building. So we are specifically looking at your building, at your address, and how you're consuming gas. We get the consumption of your building, we weather normalize that building to take out any seasonal anomalies or abnormalities. So we've got kind of a weather normalized consumption for your building, and then we look at what equipment you have in the building that's burning gas. So the efficiency of your boilers, if you have other gas loads such as swimming pools or snow melt, heated ventilation, etc. So we've got now a very accurate picture of how your building is consuming gas. And then we simply talk with you or your business partner, your contractor, whoever it might be, about the project that you're thinking of doing. And we would input the efficiencies that you would gain. So we're taking a look at what the pre is, and we take a look at what the post is, and essentially the difference between those two is your savings, multiplied by 10 cents a cubic meter is your incentive. So the value that we bring there, I think, is twofold. One, we're calculating your savings, which would be your avoided gas costs, and two, we're calculating what the financial incentive could be. You can see on the board there, I hope you can see the, examples of custom projects. They're the bulk of our projects, larger projects, boiler retrofits, automation control improvements, pumping improvements, boiler bypass valves, heat reflective panels, and VFDs, or demand control ventilation. Very quickly, there's also prescriptive programs, which we sometimes call fixed. That's another type of incentive. It's kind of based on a widget or a small kind of pre-approved savings level and incentive level. So for example, a low-flow shower head, we offer $6 per low-flow shower head. So if you're doing 100 suites, it would be $600. So these are not custom calculations, but it's a prescriptive or fixed amount. And I have brochures, I put some out on the table here, which lists all the different prescriptive offers that we have. I can tell you a little bit about the Run It Right program, which is our recommissioning program. So essentially what this program is, if you qualify for the program, we'll pay for a walkthrough audit to be done at your site. The auditing firm, we use a few different firms, but the auditing firm that comes out to your site will walk through the facility with you. We'll identify what gas burning or gas consuming equipment you have, as well as try to identify some recommended or possible measures that you could take advantage of to achieve savings. So these are not capital projects, but we consider them low cost or no cost types of recommissioning measures. So for example, adding insulation to piping, lowering set points, better scheduling or tighter scheduling, just little things like that that might help you save gas. Then you're presented with a report for the walkthrough audit, as well as these recommendations. You go through the recommendations, you choose what you're interested in doing, so you might want to do a couple here, you're not interested in this one, do a couple here, etc. You select the firm that you'd like to do this work for you, so it could be your favorite, most frequently used contractor, it could be your own in-house staff, whomever it might be. You pay the invoice for getting the work done, provide a copy of the invoice to us. If it's your own staff, you just give us a spreadsheet showing kind of the hourly rate and the cost breakdown. And we reimburse you 100% other than the HST, but we reimburse you 100% up to our predetermined level. So that can go up to $10,000. So it's a terrific program. And you should be without cost other than the tax, and you definitely should achieve savings. We strive for about 5% savings for a recommissioning program. Energy Compass, that's the last kind of program I wanted to speak about, and then I'll give a couple examples of some projects that we did similar to how Mike handled his talk. But the Energy Compass program is a benchmarking program, so it's a good fit for you if you have 5 properties or more. Essentially what we're doing is, if you applied to the program, you would fill out a spreadsheet for your different properties. So you'd list your properties, you'd list the gas account numbers for those properties. You'd fill out the various columns, so it's going to be year of construction, type of construction, footprint, kind of square footage, number of floors, etc. Any other gas load, such as if there's pool, common room, things like that. So you provide us with that spreadsheet, and we do some analysis on the gas intensity or the predicted gas intensity of the buildings. So kind of how much you're consuming at that building versus what one might expect you to consume. And I'll show it here, it's a little easier to see. You're going to get a report back similar to this. So essentially it's going to rank all of your buildings, and the ones on the left would be high intensity buildings, meaning these are buildings that are consuming more gas than one might expect. And the buildings on the right are ones who are consuming less gas than you might expect. And essentially it can aid in kind of capital planning in that, if you had some money to spend this year, the idea would be you'd maybe want to concentrate more on the left-hand side than the right. As well on the right-hand side, maybe you've done some things that, whether it's recommissioning or something that your buildings on the left could take advantage of. That program is completely complementary, as are all of our programs. So I'll just give you a couple examples just to make it a little more tangible about a few recent projects that we've incented. So this is a boiler project at a building with 103 suites. Basically, they removed their older atmospheric boilers, both heating and domestic. They pulled those out. They put in condensing boilers. They also added an indoor-outdoor reset control, so they improved the controls of the boilers and the pumping. So they went from continuous pumping to intermittent pumping. The applicable project cost was about $46,000, and the gas savings was about 80,000 cubic meters. So the average price of gas maybe about 25 cents or so, hence the avoided gas cost. So it costs $46,000 in applicable project cost, and the annual savings in avoided gas is just under $20,000, and our incentive was $9,600. I'd said our approved gas rate is 10 cents a cubic meter, but if you do the math between $80,000 and $9,600, you'll get to 12 cents, and that's because they're condensing boilers. The bulk of our incentives are 10 cents, but any condensing technology is 12 cents. So that's where the incentive comes in, and you can see the payback's really attractive. We don't always see paybacks like that, to be quite honest, in boilers, but without a doubt, our incentives can help lower the ROI and maybe even get the ROI under a threshold so a project gets moved through. One other example I want to give, it says a recent boiler project, but this is actually a VFD, larger building, more consumption. So they had, as you can see, gas-fired makeup air unit for common area heating. So a 30,000 CFM unit that was going 100% 24/7. So it was basically kind of a binary system. It was either on or off, but this one was always on, 24/7, 100%. And they installed a VFD, and for anyone who doesn't know, VFD stands for Variable Frequency Drive. So essentially it's like putting almost like a gas pedal on it. It can now ramp up and ramp down versus just being on or off. So VFDs can operate on two things. In fact, this, I'm not certain this room, I should have looked around before. I know we did in the Greater Ballroom a VFD project here at this hotel. VFD can operate two ways. One can be based on demand, so a very intelligent system works on demand control ventilation. So for example, might have a CO2 sensor. I'm probably running long here. Am I getting close? So as more CO2 is detected in the room, one would assume that the occupancy is increased and the activity level, maybe there's dancing, the activity level is increased in the room, therefore the makeup air unit's going to ramp up. It's going to provide more fresh air. If this room is vacant, as it will be this afternoon, the VFD will really ramp down, maybe even turn off. That's demand control ventilation, but most of the time in multi-res buildings we don't see demand control ventilation, we see scheduled ventilation, and that's what this project is. So you can see that they went from 24/7 at 100% to 90% during peak hours, and we would know what those peak hours are. I don't have them up here, but maybe in the morning while people are going to work, in the evening when they return, and 70% for the remaining hours. So essentially we've done a custom calculation just saying this is the consumption pre. We look at the consumption after. They're going to save 53,000 cubic meters of gas a year at roughly 25 cents, depending on what they're paying for gas, $16,000 in avoided gas cost, and a $5,300 check in terms of an incentive. And a very quick payback on this project. Our VFD projects, we see great paybacks on. So, just a quick summary, those are our programs, our custom programs, our prescriptive programs are fixed, our recommissioning program, and the benchmarking program for portfolios. We offer technical advice, as I mentioned, through those ESCs. We can offer all kinds of assistance in terms of kind of vetting projects or what you might be thinking of. We love to have conversations like that. We also provide third-party, kind of unbiased energy saving estimates. I'll also note there's some brochures up here. I put a copy of a case study we put together on Starlight Investments. I don't think there's anyone from Starlight in the room, but essentially we work with Starlight. The way that Starlight, we got started with them, they did the Energy Compass program, which is that benchmarking program. And out of 100 or so properties in the GTA, they identified 45 that they wanted to kind of attack first and foremost. And over 2 years, they worked on various projects from boiler retrofits to controls, heat reflective panels, et cetera, VFDs, at those 45 projects. And we gave them, I think the incentives were close to $250,000, and they're saving about $500,000 or so a year. So with projects like that, you know, you can greatly improve your bottom line at a property, you'll increase tenant comfort, and you're improving the value of your portfolio. Just a quick last slide. How should we start? I think it's as easy as picking up the phone, give us a call, we're happy to talk. We can bring a number of things with us to the first meeting. So your historical consumption, your weather normalized consumption, your current gas rate, projects that you have done at various buildings in the past, which I think is good, especially if you're new to the company you're working with. We can kind of give you a history of what we've done together, possibly prior to your time, as well as any promotions or programs we have on the go. So as I said, you can reach out to any of the Energy Solutions consultants, or feel free to get in touch with me. I'm happy to help and can direct you whichever way that might be. But essentially, I think that's the moral of the story, is it's a lot of information to take in. There's different programs depending on where your buildings are, but it never hurts to pick up the phone and give a call, and we might be able to provide some support. I'm certain we can do that. We might be able to provide some financial assistance as well. Thank you.
All right, we really appreciate each of the panelists sharing their knowledge, and we now have about 10 minutes or so for questions and answers. So feel free, if you wrote down a question or something came to your mind. Let's go ahead and start now.
Chris, I'd like to know a little bit more information on that 80% employee program. Is that you? You can hire somebody and get 80% of the cost picked up for hiring an energy professional.
Oh, for an embedded energy manager. Yeah. So the funding actually comes from ISO, so formerly Ontario Power Authority. So if you have an organization, there's sufficient opportunity there for energy savings, and so a business case can be made. I'm not sure what the current target is, but in kilowatts, it was typically around 300 kilowatts a year, and I don't know what the kilowatt hour target is now, but if there is sufficient case, so if you have a track record of delivering savings, or if we can determine that there are sufficient potential projects, then yes, you're eligible for up to 80% funding for an energy manager who would effectively be under your management. So you pay the additional remaining 20% of their salary, but it's available province-wide, and and we can help you access that.
Plus the roving energy manager.
That's right. So we're going to be hiring soon a roving energy manager, and so their role effectively would be to work in the sector to help pre-qualify projects. So to come out and do measurements, identify savings opportunities. So they'll support our technical sales team. So in the absence, if there's not, for your portfolio, there's not a sufficient business case for embedded energy manager funding, we might have a resource that can help you if you have a series of projects or buildings that you want us to look at. We'd be happy to do that as well.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Whatever Toronto Hydro does, the other utilities follow, like the smaller one like Hamilton or Grimsby or other hydro follow the same procedure?
Yeah, often. So I mean, there's province-wide programs. Then I mentioned the pilot program. So we've got a few pilot programs in market right now, and typically, you're right. A lot of the smaller LDCs do look to Toronto Hydro for leadership, and so we're well positioned on the provincial working groups as well. So we're kind of aware of the changes coming. In many cases, we're driving the changes in programs. So that'll often happen, but not always. So it's important to speak to your local utility if you're not in Toronto to find out what programs they do have on offer. More than likely, they will have the same programs that you saw here today.
Second part of the question is, I guess for
Pretty much, that's right. Similar to Mike's answer, we would have different programs. Each entity is given a target and a budget to work with, but then how that target and budget is achieved is kind of up to the various departments within the utility. So our programs are rather similar. I know they do more on the prescriptive end, we do more on the custom end, but we're essentially both incenting gas saving measures. So it shouldn't be overly different.
All right, I have a question for both of you. We talked a lot about how much could be saved and kind of the different types of projects, but how exactly would a customer go about receiving that savings? So whether it's the 10 cents a kilowatt hour or 10 cents a cubic meter, are they getting that as a reduction of the rate on their bill, or are they getting it in a check up front? Kind of describe that process a little bit for
Sure.
each of your
So for Toronto Hydro, the really critical thing to understand is our programs are not retroactive, right? So we need to receive an application from you before you start your work, so before you've purchased any equipment, before you have a binding agreement in place. So we will pre-approve your incentive, so an estimated incentive amount, and then when you've finished your project, that's when your actual incentive application happens, where we can we can actually deliver you a check once your savings have been verified. And so the process is an application before you start the work. Our technical team will review your so the equipment that you're proposing to install, your calculations, your quote to make sure everything is reasonable. And when you finish the project, we'll ask for proof of payment in the form of an invoice. And if there's been any changes to the program scope, so we'll want to see the revised worksheet. So if you said you're going to install 200 light fixtures, you only installed 180, that'll affect your project cost, and so we'll want to re-review all that material. So once it's been reconciled, so once your invoices match up to your worksheet and your specifications for the equipment that you installed, then we'll send you invoicing instructions and process your incentive payment. So it does, so you won't see it on your bill, you will see a physical check.
I think one of the critical things I want to highlight from my statement there is that what we do is we verify your supplier's quote. So you're given a quote on an estimate of savings by your supplier contractor, we verify that for you. So you don't have to have your trust level increases so significantly. Now that we've actually seen a third party engineer, we're not getting paid by the supplier. So we're doing that on your behalf, not on the customer, not on the supplier.
Chris?
Right. Quite a similar answer to Mike's. It's an incentive check that you'll get. So there's the two savings component. One is the avoided gas cost, which essentially is the gas you won't be consuming. So you'll receive those savings every month, every day. But the other is the check, which you'll receive a paper check. And we need to be able to demonstrate our influence in these projects as well. We don't have necessarily the same requirements in terms of pre-approval, but we need to be able to demonstrate our influence in the projects.
In your opinion, window replacement, about window replacement cladding overall, is it worth it to submit?
It's probably a question more on the gas side, unless your building's electrically heated. It would be my
Either gas or electrical.
Yeah, I
Some
mean-
buildings are electrical heated, and when we put windows and everything, it's helping a lot to reduce the amount.
Yeah, I mean, typically I would say windows wouldn't be the first priority in terms of your building envelope priority. If you have an electrically heated building, you probably want to look at your heating equipment and you want to look at your thermal envelope, your wall insulation. Windows can be very expensive, and you might be more cost effective to focus on your wall insulation. So your glazing, I mean, it depends on how much, how large a proportion of your building actually is windows, is glazing, right? So apartment, newer condos, yeah, they're very heavily glazed, a lot more windows, and I'd say that'd be more priority. Apartment buildings, maybe less so, because you typically have masonry, and so yeah, I mean, it's my kind of instinctive reaction though is it wouldn't be the first project we would want to focus on. But if there are energy savings there, we're happy to work with you really on any project. So if we can verify the savings, then we're happy to help you and cut you a check.
Why don't we expand a little bit on that with Randy and his window case study,
Yeah,
and maybe
yeah,
you can
it's-
talk about if you looked at other things besides the windows, or if you have done other case studies that we didn't really talk about and how they compare.
Yeah, I mean, we focus on, you know, we do the usual simple payback energy conservation initiatives. Excuse me. So things like lighting, 3-liter toilets. We've even done boilers, but typically anything with a 3 to 5 year payback, we would do automatically. We've even increased insulation on roofs and tried to make a business case for it, although that's a little bit more difficult to do. But, you know, with this high-ris program funding that we've been able to find through the City of Toronto's Tower Renewal Program, if you have a fixed debt service cost that you're able to amortize over the term of the loan, which is at a preferred rate over 15 years, and you run your numbers, you know, your simple payback and the business fundamentals make sense. And you realize when you work all the numbers down, the return on your investment, you know, all the way down to your cash flow, when you factor in your expense piece and then you factor in the opportunity piece in terms of being able to generate more revenue, you realize that windows shouldn't be a third-tier priority. You know, they really help with your marketing initiatives, so there are a lot of qualitative benefits. They help with your aesthetics of the building. They help with the carbon footprint, as we've seen, and we've been able to make a business case for it. So there are a lot of initiatives on the hydro, gas, and water side that we all typically do, but you know, we've been able to make a case for not discounting windows.
The only, not to hold everyone up here, but the only real quick thing I'd add about windows, Herschel, is the incentive is based on the base case. So the savings at your property could be significant in terms of what you're going from older single pane windows to what you're going to. There could be terrific savings. However, the incentive is calculated based on the base case, and the base case is actually quite high. So it's dual pane, single glaze windows. So the savings between the base case and what you might do, triple pane, low E, whatever it might be, that's what we would be incenting you on. So that's a long way of saying the incentive as a number will, or as a check for members would help, but it's not going to be overly reflective of the entire savings that you're going to receive, because the base case is quite high for windows.
No, I agree. Just we do it anyway. Randy knows we have to do it because it's time to do it. So I'm just wondering if we can submit something. Try. That's the name thing. Try.
We actually, yeah, if I can just intervene for a second with respect to the windows, we actually got 50% of the energy audit cost back through one of the programs.
Great. All right. Well, with that, we will go ahead and wrap up. Why don't we give another round of applause to the panelists? They were great. We really appreciate the questions, and I think a big takeaway is please come up and talk to these guys. They know their stuff, and they can get to your specific needs. So we'll now take a 30-minute break for refreshments.
Good luck.
The RHB Insider Network is an RHB Inc. production. Publishers of RHB Magazine and the producers of RHB Newsreel.